Hello, our team name is Catch 22, and we will be covering biofuels and indirect land use. And more specifically, in some situations, we'll be using a lot of examples that talk about how this is happening in Brazil. Our group members are Hannah, Braden, and Kiko, and we'll see their introductions in just a second. Hi, I'm Braden Hacker. I'm working out of Northern Illinois, Rockford more specifically. And the reason that biofuels and their land use is important to me is because of the importance of finding better alternatives to problems that we can find. And so when biofuels seem like they might be a great upgrade, it's important to weigh the risks and the benefits to make sure that down the line they aren't going to cause more problems than we expected.
Hi, I'm Hannah Purser, and I am working on this project from my home in Rock Hill, South Carolina. It is a small town outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. We're just over the state border. And I chose this project because I think that land use in general is really important and that we should be mindful of how we're using the land on this planet because there's only so much of it available to us. There's no way to create any more. Um, so I decided to pick this project and this topic to learn more about the effects that we know of and that we are unsure of land use change for biofuel production.
Hi, I'm Kiko. I'm from Spokane, Washington, and I'm interested in biofuels because I'm interested in vehicle alternatives, especially electric vehicles, but also fuel alternatives.
When justifying biofuels and land use as a wicked problem, there's a lot of things that go into it. It's a complicated problem with many parts. Biofuels help us to balance the carbon equation by creating fuel from plants that extract carbon from the atmosphere. However, the production of those crops has, in some regions, led to deforestation or improper land use to make room for more of this agricultural land. This exact impact of deforestation on the net value of using biofuels is debated. Some say that deforestation sharply reduces or even reverses the benefit, while others argue that those claims are out of proportion with the reality and the factors involved. Further complicating matters, whatever decisions we as a global society make now will be permanent because there won't be enough time to change the policies before the impacts are realized. Additionally, those impacts affect the very immediate threat of climate change and global warming, the biodiversity of the ecosystems in the Amazon, specifically for Brazil, and the global economy that relies on petroleum based fuels to operate. The primary stakeholders that have some sort of vested interest in the problem of biofuels and the land use come down to a number of different groups. More immediately are the farmers, the ones that are growing the crops that are made into biofuels. The people of the Amazon, the citizens of Brazil, whose environments are being changed, the petroleum industry that is kind of competing against the biofuels or trying to buy into the biofuels model, the local and global economies of the area, more immediately in the areas that it is most prevalent, and also anyone who consumes these fuels is going to be impacted in some way or another, so they hold a stake in it as well. On a larger scale, this problem affects climate change, though it is unclear if the effect is getting better, getting worse, or how much of both that might be. Some of the most obvious impacts that occur from this wicked problem are visual. Deforestation due to land clearing for the cultivation of ethanol and other biofuels makes a very stark comparison to the other areas around it. In addition to this, there is also a great reduction in biodiversity as well as the vulnerability to flooding in that area. These are secondary and tertiary problems that come off of the original issue of improper land use and can be some of the most destructive portions of it. The primary driver is the global demand for fuel and the impacts of carbon emissions on climate change. Carbon emissions have led governments around the world to establish standards requiring fuel to contain a certain percentage of biofuels. This requirement has impacted the demand for biofuel crops like corn and wheat, which impacts the agricultural industry. Specific to Brazil, land use change has encroached on territory once used by the indigenous people of the Amazon and the plants and animals that live there as well. That is the overview of what we intend on covering in much more depth throughout the rest of this project. Here we have some of the things that our team has talked about as far as organization, communication, and making sure that we are accomplishing everything we want to with this project. As a group, we will be using Google Docs as a platform for collaboration. We will also meet once or twice a week via Zoom or some other video meeting service to discuss the project as well as any issues we may be having or to just check in and make sure that the project is going as we have planned it. We have exchanged phone numbers and email addresses in addition to ensure that we maintain good and open communication and can use that for asking questions throughout the week, even without it having to be a scheduled meeting. To ensure we divide work evenly, we will break each assignment into pieces and then split them amongst ourselves, taking strengths and weaknesses into account. For example, for this project, myself, Braden, I have been doing some of the narration. I have and put some of the video aspects of it together. Kiko has written the script as far as things that we want to mention and talk about more in depth. And Hannah had put together the slideshow and organized things in that way. So we're going to keep using those strengths and making sure that we hone in on that to properly use everyone's time and expertise. We will also exchange roles each week in order to develop our skills in different areas on top of that. To summarize, we have some major points that we want to continue to cover as far as this wicked problem goes. The land use change due to biofuel production has a lot of risks involved, not only in Brazil, but that is a good example. And the main point of that is that more research needs to be done in order to find out just how the land use is affecting the environment and if the benefits outweigh the risks. This is, of course, difficult to do because biofuels are multifaceted and very difficult to measure not just the primary outcomes of using them and allotting land for their production, but also the secondary and tertiary things down the line that really can have a huge impact in an unseen way. Of course, monetary gain is a huge factor when it comes to how the land is used and what is produced on said land. The major stakeholders of which are going to be doing things in their own self interest, and it is difficult to come to a consensus on how that should be done. Deforestation, primarily in Brazil, is going to be a focus for a lot of our examples, and as they have a very greatly expanding need for ethanol producing crops, that land use is just going to continue to be changed. With all that being said, we'd like to thank you for watching this presentation and learning a bit more about where we come from and our viewpoint on this topic that we do care so much about. We appreciate your time, and we want to say thank you for putting this class together, and look forward to seeing what we come up with in the future. From Braden, Kiko, and Hannah at Catch 22.